Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Tanushree from Biotecnika, and today's video is going to be very much interesting, not only for those CSIR NET aspirants who have just started their exam preparation, but even for those who are already preparing for CSIR NET exam. Aspirants who have just begun their exam preparation, this video will help them in selection of units or topics for the exam. However, the aspirants who are already preparing for the exam, this video will help them. It will be a reminder for them to ensure that they have selected the units or topics which I'm going to tell them in this session. So let's get started. Let's have a look at the syllabus first. It's very vast, right? CSIR NET syllabus is equivalent to doing MSc in 13 subjects. Now, if you are selecting all the 13 units for the exam, this is where you are making a major mistake. Never ever try to cover everything. Just focus on 8 to 9 units from the exam. So what would be these 8 to 9 units? How you can select these 8 to 9 units? So always select the units which are important from exam point of view, as well as the units which you find interesting. And even on the basis of your education background, you can select the units. So question arises, what are these important units? Like subject interest varies from person to person, right? But when it comes to units which are important from exam point of view, what are these important units? So in this session, you will going to know about the units and the topics from those units which you must never skip for the exam. So starting with the unit 1. This is the very first unit of your syllabus, that is molecules and their interaction relevant to biology. Now, this particular unit, it comprises of two subunits, biochemistry and structural biology. So basically, in this particular unit, you study about the structure of biomolecules like proteins, nucleic acids, carbohydrates, lipids. You study about enzyme kinetics. You study about pathways. Even you study about stabilizing interactions. So this unit is all about basics. And this is the reason it is the very first unit given in your syllabus. So you must always start your preparation from unit 1. And even this unit is important because it is interconnected to almost every unit. Like just imagine you are studying about replication and transcription, translation, but you don't know about the structure of nucleic acid, or you don't know about the structure of the proteins or amino acids. Then can you expect to understand these fundamental processes if you don't know about the structures? No, right? Therefore, it is very much important that you should prepare this unit 1 thoroughly. You should never skip the unit 1 for the exam. Now, coming to the topics which are important from unit 1. So first is stabilizing interactions, especially emphasize on hydrogen bonding and weak interactions like hydrophobic interactions, ionic and van der Waals forces. Then when you are preparing for the protein is again a very important topic. It's a vital topic to study. And always start with the amino acid structure here. Okay, always start with the amino acid structure, their function, and then move on to pKa. And Ramachandran plot, it is one of the favorites in the CSIR NET exam. So prepare this topic thoroughly. Then you can study about enzyme kinetics. If you're studying about metabolic pathways, you should have a thorough and clear understanding of every step of pathways in right order. Also emphasize on the enzymes which are involved in the pathways. Then you can focus on pH problems, study the carbohydrate structure, lipid structure, especially the membrane, and finally move on to the nucleic acids. Now moving on to unit 2, which is about cell organization. So this particular unit 2 is all about cell biology, where you can see that it comprises of 5 subunits, and you study about the structure and function of the membranes and organelles here, as well as you study about the cell division, organization of genes, and microbial physiology. Now, this particular unit 2, from unit 2, it is important because very direct statement based questions are asked. And this unit 2, it carries weightage of around 25 to 30 marks. So therefore, it is not advisable to skip this unit. And especially subunits C and D are totally unavoidable because most of the Part C questions are asked from these subunits C and D. And even to understand other units, you have to prepare unit 2 thoroughly. Like, for example, if you want to understand the fundamental processes, the genome organization concept should be very much clear, which you study in unit 2. Similarly, if you are studying about cell division and cell cycle, like you are studying about cell regulation, so you can relate it to cancer and anti-cancer drugs, which you study from unit 4. So even this unit 2 is very much important if you are studying like it is interconnected, right? Units are interconnected. So if you study unit 2, you can relate it with the topics you study in other units like unit 3, unit 4, and unit 8. So coming to the important topics, so usually 2 marks question, that is part B questions, are asked from membrane structure and function. However, 4 marks question, that is part C question, is asked mostly on protein targeting and cell cycle and its regulation. Sometimes the questions are asked on cytoskeletal proteins and their inhibitors, even unique and repetitive DNA, and even on growth curve. So therefore, it is totally like you should never skip these particular topics when preparing for unit 2. Moving on to unit 3, which is about fundamental processes. So this unit is completely structured around the central dogma, where you study about replication, transcription, and translation. So you can say that this particular unit is all about molecular biology. Now, this unit is simple because you can see here that it comprises of only 4 subunits. So in comparison to other units, it is comparatively simple, and scoring because around 10 to 12 questions are asked from this unit, and even the questions are framed by combining the topics from other units like unit 2, 4, 8, and 13. So basically, in this particular unit, you have to study about the topics like replication, transcription, translation. Make sure you emphasize on the operon. Make sure that you emphasize on RNA processing. Also, you have to learn the inhibitors, examples of inhibitors which are involved, inhibitors of the processes like replication and transcription and translation. So this is all about unit 3. And then moving on to unit 4, which is about cell communication and cell signaling. Now, this particular unit 4, it is a mixture of cell biology and immunology. Knowledge of cell biology is prerequisite to study cell communication. So in this particular unit 4, you study about cell signaling, cell communication, and immunology. Mostly part C questions are asked from this particular unit, and this unit is very, very scoring. So here you can see it comprises of the 5 subunits where you study about like cell signaling is there, communication is there, cancer is there, and finally you have the immunology, innate and adaptive immune system. So moving on to the important topics from this unit. So the important topics are on your screen. You should always focus on signaling pathways. Then you can move on to the cancer biology, where you have to specifically learn about the proto-oncogenes, tumor suppressor genes, and even you have to emphasize on the immunology topics like cell-mediated cytotoxicity, and even you have to study about the B cell and T cell activation, because sometimes the questions are being framed by combining the topic like B cell and T cell study by combining the topic from unit 13 like flow cytometry. Then moving on to unit 6. So far we have studied about, you have learned about unit 1 to unit 4, like how like what are the topics you need to emphasize and why you should not skip these 4 units. So always start your preparation with unit 1, then move on to 2, 3, and 4. Then comes unit 6, which is about plant physiology. Now, I would like to tell you one point here that this unit 6 is very vast. Like if you see the subunits, it comprises A to H. And specifically, this unit, it focuses on botany concepts of life sciences. So anyone who has a background of botany, this unit will be an advantage or will be a strength for those students having a background of botany. However, we often come across the questions from the biotech students, microbiology students, and they should select like between unit 6 and unit 7. So obviously unit 7, which is about animal physiology, so it will be a strength for those students having the zoology background. So zoology background students, they can skip unit 6, but the students having a background of biotechnology, biochemistry, microbiology, they should select unit 6 instead of unit 7, because unit 6 has more weightage. Like here you can see it is having a weightage around 30 to 36 marks, and even we know the topics like the pattern of the questions which are asked from unit 6 is very very well known. So therefore, uh, for those students which are not having a botany background, they and even not having a zoology background, if you have to choose between unit 6 and 7, I'll suggest that you should always go for unit 6. Specifically, if you're preparing for unit 6, the first three subunits are important, and they are common with the unit 1 also. Like in unit 1 also, you study about electron transport chain and nitrogen metabolism. So always start your preparation with the first three subunits. They are common with unit 1 also. And here in this particular unit, you study about the ABC model, you study about the photosynthesis, about different cycles, C2, C3, C4. So learn these cycles thoroughly, remember the enzymes involved, right? And the ATP requirement, how many ATPs are formed, right? And then you have to study about secondary metabolites also, biotic and abiotic stress also. Even you need to have a knowledge about the stomata, phytohormones, solute transport. So these are the important topics from unit 6 you can see on your screen. Now moving on to unit 8, which is about inheritance biology, that is genetics. Unit 8, it seems tough and challenging. But believe me, when you start preparing this unit, you will find it very, very interesting. This particular unit 8 is important from exam point of view because it has a weightage of around 25 marks. And from this particular unit, like simply learning the facts and learning the formulas won't help. You have to understand the concept thoroughly, and you have to apply those concepts in solving the questions. So this is the reason I told you, maybe in the beginning you find it very tough and challenging, but once you start preparing it, and especially if you like here, if you are attending the Biotecnika classes, you will be learning few tips, will be learning the tricks and the strategies for solving the question. So you will start loving the unit 8. Now from unit 8, we expect a lot of questions, and the questions asked are statement based, figure based, and numerical based questions. So therefore, I will suggest that you should prepare unit 8. It's very scoring, and you can see that it comprises of subunits A to K. So the topics which are important from unit 8 are Mendelian ratios. Like here you have to study about the Mendel's dihybrid cross, monohybrid cross, genotypic and phenotypic ratio, test cross ratio. And also you have to practice the questions, probability based questions. So you need to be thorough with the probability rules, multiplication rules, sum rule or addition rule, and binomial theorem. Then extension of Mendelian principle, also the questions are asked. So probability question, every year a question is there, either part B, mostly part C question in the exam. Then extensions of Mendelian principle, where you study the terms like incomplete dominance, codominance, genomic imprinting, epistasis, pleiotrophy, penetrance and expressivity. So even these terms, based on these terms, the questions are asked in exam. Then gene mapping, where you study about linkage mapping. So every year there's a question on linkage mapping, a question on gene order is there, a question on distance between the genes is there. Sometimes question on physical mapping and tetrad analysis is also asked. Then from microbial genetics, questions especially on interrupted mating and sexduction is asked, and you need to be familiar with the terminology like what is transduction, conjugation. Then pedigree analysis, definitely for sure a part C question is there. Sometimes a question on lot score is also there. Then questions on mutations or structure and numerical alteration of chromosome is also there. So this mutation, structure, and numerical alteration, it's a very easy topic. You just have to memorize the names of the mutations and what are the agents causing these mutations and the disease associated with the mutations, only you have to remember. Now, moving on to Unit 10, which is about ecological principles. So, this Unit 10, it is prepared together for both environmental concerns and applied ecological concepts. So, basically, like you might come across, like in our day-to-day life, we come across a lot of environmental problems, right? And therefore, not only from the environmental concern point of view, but even from exam point of view, we should prepare this Unit 10. And this is a very interesting and scoring unit. And the topics basically in this particular unit are very simple, although a lot of topics are there, but they are very simple. So we can say that it's a very interesting unit because you come across these terms in your day-to-day life. But this unit, like a lot of questions are asked, like 4 to 5 questions in part B, 3 or 2 questions, 3 to 2 questions in part C are asked. So it is a scoring unit also because topics are very simple. You just have to memorize, and frequent revision is not required because topics are very simple. You just have to understand the concept. And even from unit 10, like you should not skip unit 10 because even the combination based questions are also asked from evolution, like unit 11 also, combining the concept from unit 10 and unit 11. And mostly the questions which are asked, they are graph based questions. So as we always say in Biotecnika, that when you are attempting the questions, always go for the match the following type of questions, as they are very easy and very scoring. So these are the important topics on your screen where you need to, you need to prepare the topic global warming potential from unit 10. Then you need to be familiar with the pyramids of energy. About population ecology, you need to study ecosystem ecology, biosphere reserves and sanctuaries. This is something that you have to memorize. The examples you have to memorize. Environmental pollution, again, it's a very general topic, but very important. Then major biomes of the world, niche concept, structure and components of different ecosystem types you need to study. Then moving on to unit 13, which is the last unit given in your syllabus, and it is all about techniques, and specifically not only 1 or 2 techniques. Like if you come across, like if you go through the syllabus, it comprises of several subunits like A to H. And the very interesting point to note here is that every subunit is different from another. Like in one subunit you study about recombinant DNA technology, in another you study about immunotechniques, in subunit C you study about spectroscopy, D you study about statistical methods, E you study about radio labeling techniques, and then microscopy is there, and then you have electrophysiological methods are there, and even methods in field biology. So I know this unit 13 is very vast in comparison to the other units given in the syllabus, but it is very very important, not only from exam point of view, but even from the, like for the from the practical point of view also. Like once you enter into the research field, the techniques which are given in unit 13 are the ones you have to actually deal with. So I will suggest that you should never skip unit 13. Lot of questions are asked from unit 13, around 12 to 14, and even the questions which are asked, they are being framed by combining topics from other units like unit 1, unit 2, 4, 8, and even 12. So question arises, if there are, like if there are so many subunits, what are the topics specifically you need to emphasize? Like always start your preparation with the important topics. So what are these important topics from unit 13? So first topic is recombinant DNA technology. Specifically here, you need to be familiar with the basics of gene cloning, how restriction digestion is performed, because the questions on restriction digestion either on the examples of restriction enzyme or how the restriction digestion is done and number of fragments are formed. Based on these concepts, the questions are asked in the exam. Then flow cytometry. So the concept from unit 4, B cell, T cell, immunology, and the flow cytometry topic, the questions are framed by combining these two topics. So flow cytometry from subunit B, you should never skip. However, sometimes the questions on ELISA or radio immunoassay or Western blotting is also asked. Then when it comes to spectroscopic technique, make sure you thoroughly prepare UV visible spectroscopy, because from this particular topic you can expect a numerical question as well as statement based or a figure based question also. So like the question on Beer-Lambert's law, like numerical based questions, so the questions can be on Beer-Lambert's law can be asked, and maybe they give you a spectrum and they'll ask you what the spectrum, like you have to analyze the spectrum and they'll ask you about the result. Then statistical methods, I will suggest that those students who are really scared of solving the statistical based questions, the calculation based questions, you can skip that part. But I will suggest that you should go for the theoretical concept. Like you should know what is parametric test, what are the examples, you should know what is ANOVA, you should know about chi-square test. So if a match the following type question is asked, which is usually asked in the exam, you can easily score in such questions if you're familiar with the terminologies, like what is ANOVA, what is chi-square test, what is about binomial theorem, right? So just prepare this particular subunit for match the following type questions and get yourself familiar with the topics that I have mentioned. Then radioisotopes and decay process is again important. Again, from here, we expect the numerical question on half-life or radioactive decay. And even the questions, match the following type questions or statement-based questions are asked on the radioisotopes as well. And then for exam point of view, microscopic basic terms like magnification, resolution, numerical aperture need to be very much clear. And even you need to be familiar with the applications of light and electron microscopy. Now, you might be wondering, what about the units 5, 7, 9, 11, and 12? Unit 5 is about developmental biology. So, anyone having a zoology background definitely should prepare Unit 5. Unit 5 is theoretical, it's like you are reading a storybook. But anyone who are not familiar with the basic terminologies, they should, of the developmental biology, they should never start with Unit 5. So anyone having the zoology background, it will be an advantage, or anyone preparing the animal physiology, then yes, developmental biology unit can be done together with Unit 7. And even from Unit 5, you can do selective study, like those students having a botany background, they can study plant developmental biology. And those having a background of zoology, they can study animal developmental biology. Then in the very beginning only, like when we were discussing about Unit 6, I already told you that anyone having zoology background should not go for Unit 6, but should go for Unit 7. However, when there is a choice between 6 or 7, you should always go for Unit 6. Then moving on to Unit 9, that is diversity in life forms, and Unit 11, that is evolution and behavior, and Unit 12, that is applied biology. You need not to prepare the entire units. I have come to the end of this session. I hope you find this information that I have told you regarding the selection of the units and topics interesting. So with this, I end my session. Do like, share, and subscribe.